I really appreciate every single day I have. I appreciate every day I have with my spouse. I appreciate every day I have with my children. I appreciate every day I have with the businesses that I'm doing. So when things fail, and they do all the time, I sit back, analyze it, say, what can I do better next time? If it feels hard, then you're going the right way. If it feels easy, you're going the wrong way because life is not easy. And life
Yeah.
is going to throw challenges at you. And those challenges are the things that make life and make us who we are. There's never enough money. There's never enough fame. And when you give up that, you find out you're free. You're free from all that stuff. And for me, it is a recognition that life is beautiful, not that life is cruel. Life is difficult, and you have to take the good with the bad. If you haven't suffered tragedy, you will. And if you have been going through massively difficult times, you can get through it. And if you are not willing to accept that and to embrace it, then you can't ever be successful.
I'm joined by someone who helped me launch this podcast, my first ever guest, Paul Hatch, now the CEO of Vestra Financial and my next stage. He's worked at 3 different global wealth management organizations and held nearly every position that you can imagine, including vice chairman of wealth management at Morgan Stanley. Paul and I first spoke and we discussed reinvention, how he left a successful global financial career to build something more meaningful on his own terms. Now, a year later, we're reconnecting to explore what comes after the pivot, how identity, purpose, and leadership evolve. Paul, welcome to the Midlife Remix.
Thanks very much.
I want to start by talking a little bit about life and leadership and how it continues to evolve. So what has changed in your thinking or how you view this chapter of your life now? And you're right in the entrepreneurial life, and you've made some pivots even within the entrepreneurial journey. So give me your perspective of that now.
I'm 68, and I thought the rate of change that would evolve in my life would slow down quite a bit when I left the large company. The exact opposite has happened. And life is one of those things that it just keeps teaching you lessons. And so I think I probably learned more in the last 5 years than I 40 years of my business in the wealth management space. I failed a lot, by the way. And I sent a post out for anybody who wants to read it about becoming an entrepreneur and, what was it like relative to, being at Morgan Stanley or UBS or Citi or any of those places. And the short answer is it's way harder and it's way more rewarding. And you find it's like the old saying, you move from success to significance. And you find that while it's harder, it's that much more rewarding. You wake up every day. You can make your own decisions. You can't point the finger at anybody. But most of all, what I found is time slows down. And everybody thinks that's the opposite, right? Like they think, oh, everything goes fast when you get older. No, that's actually not true. And it is because I really appreciate every single day I have. I appreciate every day I have with my spouse. I appreciate every day I have with my children. I appreciate every day I have with the businesses that I'm doing. So when things fail, and they do all the time, I sit back, analyze it, say, what can I do better next time?
What were some of those failures that you recently had that hit you really hard, and how were you able to reflect on that and grow from them?
Yeah, so I have 2 businesses. The first one, and this is going really well, is a company that focuses on finding employment and improving the search process for men and women who are over 40 years old. What we found is, people talk about ageism. Is it a problem? Yeah, of course it is. And there are lots of other problems there, but the fundamental issue was search is broken. One of the failures is we've been trying to raise money for it. I have learned We stopped letting fear of running out of money. We stopped letting it dictate what we did. And now we have a solution that's really good. And guess what? Now the people that we want to write checks are starting to listen. That's the first one. The second one was the wealth management business is the changes that are happening there are just fantastic. But what I learned here the most was I was thinking too much about how we make money, and I failed completely. What I really found was, how do I make this really good for our clients and, of course, for the advisors? And the answer was, I wasn't focused on that. And because I wasn't focused on that, we built a shitty solution.
Mhm.
And when you build a shitty solution, nobody is going to join you. So we stopped that too. We relaunched, and we are now myopically focused on what is the best thing for the client. We decided that we would start with the client, not start with the end. And we figured if we build something really great, then we can figure out how to make money on it. Guess what? It's working too. And more importantly, Stephen, because I'm not defining it by, how much money have we made? I'm defining it by what have we done for the industry? What have we done for clients? And what have we done for advisors? I can't lose.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I found out is when you're counting everything by money, you lose every time. Like you can never make enough.
Yeah.
But when you start focusing on what you're accomplishing, what you're contributing to people that you know and love, what you care about, I care deeply about the wealth management business.
There are so many lessons in what you just said. Let me dissect it a little bit. That now you figured it out, and you might not make as many mistakes, but as you know, um, having the experience that you have, that life never works that way, right? As soon as we
Sure.
feel like we figured it out and there's smooth sailing, we get hit in the face really, really hard. And life teaches us that, yeah, no, we have not figured it out, and there's something new for us to learn, because the only time we grow is when we struggle, when there's adversity.
When you start to do it that way, when you look at the struggle as, yeah, of course there's going to be a struggle. That's what it's supposed to be. Both of us follow Stoicism, and it's so true. The hard path is the right path. If I teach anything to my children, that's what I want them to understand. If it feels hard, then you're going the right way. If it feels easy, you're going the wrong way, because life is not easy. And life is going to throw challenges at you. And those challenges are the things that make life and make us who we are, which is why I say now I'm at a place where I think I can't lose because I'm focused on the right things. And even though the things will evolve, and you're right, there'll be 5 things I won't think of, but getting those things thrown in my path is the opportunity for me to stay alive and contributing. And so
Did you
uh,
ever have a moment where you were like, "Oh shit, I wish I would be back at the large corporation, and this is
my
kicking my
God,
butt in a way that."
no. Well, that's not true. One time when I was thinking about, I used to stay at the Four Seasons and the Ritz-Carlton, and I was staying at a Motel 6 because that's what you do when you're not sure. You don't go to the Four Seasons. I could stay for, 20 days at the Motel 6. And so that was the only time I thought, wow, it really was nice to do that, but I wouldn't change it for 1 second. And you know what I did? I learned to love the Motel 6 and the little packets of coffee and cream that I got. That's how I got past that one. But that was the only time that I thought, it sure would be nice to have that kind of stuff. But that next day, and the people I met with and the things that I was doing, I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be.
Was there anything surprising in the last year in this new chapter that you're in that you would have not anticipated?
Oh, probably about 365 of them. Every day, look, I think this is a good lesson for any entrepreneur that's out there, and it's a good lesson for any person out there.
Yeah.
It never stops, right? Like there isn't a time where you're so experienced, you anticipate everything. If you think you've anticipated everything, it's just like this thing we talked about. If you think you've anticipated all this, you are about to get your ass whipped because it changes every day. And I didn't think about that when I left the large places because when you're there, it's a really complicated set of problems that you're engaged and involved with all the time. And so when you get out, you think, yeah, everything's going to be easy and you're going to kind of have a good handle on all this. And the answer is like, no, it's like I don't have an assistant. I use AI just like everybody else does. I call and get my plane thing. And on top of all that, I got to know every job in the thing. I didn't used to have to know every job. I just used to know who's doing that job so I could call them up and say, hey, what's going on? But when you become an entrepreneur and when you move away from these large, complex places, the bad news is you don't have some of the stuff to do. The good news is you can make decisions quickly and you will make them with less information than you ever had before, but you get comfortable doing it. So I step back and people ask me that question all the time. And there's never been a time when I haven't said enthusiastically, by the way. So happy to be where I am, and anybody that wants me to tell them all the great advantages that it has. It's kind of like sometimes people say, don't you wish you were like 35 again? Like, no, I don't wish I was 35 again. Are you kidding? You know how many things that I had to fail in from being 35 to get to where I got here? No way. When I started out as a young man, I thought, if I just work harder, if I just work longer, if I am just more committed, then we will win. I will win. Our company will win. All of those things is what I thought. I now know that's actually not true.
Yeah.
But I do know that part of that was how we define success. And, we always get back to the same thing. As long as you are focused on the right things, you cannot lose. When you are focused on the wrong things, you cannot win.
I spoke to somebody recently, and what they called it was, white knuckling it doesn't work. And I think that that's one of the big lessons that you learn when you have a little bit more experience is that no, it's not just about grinding it. It's
That's right.
actually about being a lot smarter and actually letting go, because many things you can't control in life, and not trying to go against the grain, but going with the flow is really what will make it happen. If you could, would you have made this pivot earlier?
Yes. Yes, God, yes. I think about what I could be doing right now if I'd have made this move when I was 30 or 35. I don't regret that I didn't take this job or that job. I do regret that I didn't understand the opportunity to really enjoy what I was doing. I had senior roles and there's rewards associated with those. But when you get to a place where again, it doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur, it really doesn't. It just matters if you get to a place where you understand what's important to you in your life and you spend your time doing those things. I regret that I didn't spend more time with my children. There's never been an adult ever who hasn't said that. And no matter how much you spend with them now, you can't spend too much. Of course, I regret those kinds of things. I sure as hell don't regret being in one of those meetings again. But no, I would have. Yeah, the answer is I tell young people, and sometimes I'm not welcomed back after I do this, but I walk into them and say, like, you should resign from the company today. You should go do work for yourself. Why are you bothering killing yourselves, reducing your things, taking time away from your family? Why are you doing all that if you're not, unless it's something that you really feel passionately about, and almost no person in one of those companies feels like that.
Yeah. I would say it a little bit different. I would take it as being intentional. When we're young, we're just like, okay, let me get a job. Let me just climb the ladder, make more money. And we're not actually thinking about what is it that my heart desires? What am I good at? What's my purpose? And so how can I be more intentional about it?
I agree with you.
So you ran these massive organizations, and then you made this pivot into more mission-driven ventures. How has your sense of ambition and fulfillment evolved in this phase of your life?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was thinking about that today for a different reason. But if nobody ever knows who I am for the rest of my life, I'd totally be fine with that. If you're pursuing the wrong goal, you're never going to win. And I think that is true of kind of notoriety, or if you're doing something because you're trying to be recognized, you are never going to be happy, right? Like, because no recognition is enough. It's like, okay, I got enough money and now I buy a jet. My buddy he has a faster jet. He has a bigger jet. He has a jet that, you can jump out of it and do parachuting. I got to have that. I got to have that. And, you find all those. So what you find in life is there's never enough money. There's never enough fame. And when you give up that, you find out you're free. You're free from all that stuff. And the only thing that matters is I look in the mirror and I know I did something. And so those are the things I think as you get a little deeper into your career, you can appreciate. And it also means you don't have to play the game of getting recognized or having a title or being somewhere. You recognize those things they fade away. They fade away really quickly. And the things that don't fade away are looking at a man or woman that you helped get a leg up. And now, they're running some great big organization and they're doing some fantastic things. Those are great days, right? Like, I hired that person.
Yeah.
So anyways, I think that is talking about how you live your life and what is important to you determines your success, and all those other things start to fade away.
We already touched upon Stoicism for a second. Last time when you were on the podcast, you called yourself a novice Stoic. How has Stoicism shown up in your day-to-day life now? And not so much as a philosophy, but more maybe as a practice.
For me, it is a recognition that life is beautiful, not that life is cruel. Life is difficult. And you have to take the good with the bad, everybody. And I'm going to look right in the and say, hey, to all of you, if you haven't suffered tragedy, you will. And if you have been going through massively difficult times, you can get through it. And that's really what Stoicism is about and helps you with, which is people have good luck and bad luck. Things happen and then they don't. And if you are not willing to accept that and to embrace it, then you can't ever be successful, right? So for me, it's about how you take those difficult things that happen to you, to your friends, to your family, to your business, and that you accept what they are. They are lessons. They are lessons for you. And if you take the lesson and evaluate it, it won't happen again. The ones who have challenges in their lives are the ones who don't want they want to blame it on something. They cannot determine my reaction to those things.
Yeah.
Right. Everything can happen to me. It allows you to put perspective in there, and it allows you to see what's the next step. It's amazing what these things that were first captured thousands of years ago, and the world is so different from them, but is so relevant. Is these amazing truths of life that you can take. And that's the other thing that things, whether it's AI or anything else, you go like, yeah, that's all really interesting. But I think it's the ancient wisdom that we have to be really careful and make sure that we hold it dear and we keep it, because it's telling us things that are part of our life and always will be.
You said that you're a dad, and that's the most important role. How has fatherhood evolved, alongside your personal professional reinvention? And you still obviously, have a young daughter too. It's not that you only have, adult kids.
Well, it's really a great question. I have two adult children, a son and a daughter who are in their 30s, and I have a daughter who's 10 years old. My children grew up seeing me flying in airplanes all over and going all over the globe and doing all these things. And I have an office in my house, and we talk about my business all the time. And I find what I'm doing differently this time is I'm actually engaging my children in the things that I go through.
Hmm.
I mean, she's 10 years old, but she's, you know, kids kids are smarter than you think, and I want her to know uh, that life sometimes is hard, and in business, you just like your father, you're gonna go through difficult times, and guess what? We're gonna go out on the other side too. And so I tell her everything, and people sometimes go like, you don't tell her. And they're like, yeah, actually I do. And I get really good advice from her sometimes because she doesn't know what she doesn't know. But she does sometimes say like, well, what? Why don't you do this? Didn't you tell me last week about XYZ? And I go like, that's exactly it. I don't need to pay those consultants. I'm just going to get my 10-year-old to tell it to me. I have a life and I share that with my spouse and I share it with my child. I don't tell her exactly what the revenue was and the profit is, but I talk to her about revenue and profit, and I talk to her when we have a good month, and talk to her when we have a bad month, so that she knows life, you have good months, and life, you have bad months. My daughter comes up to me and she says, you look like you need a hug. It must not have been a really good day today. And she gives me a hug, and guess what? It goes from being a shit day to being a great day. And I think if I didn't kind of share those things with her and didn't say, well, I'm going to get on an airplane, fly to New York for 5 days, while I was doing that, it
Hmm.
would have been just like, I love my kids, and we have my older kids, and we have a great relationship. But I know they never understood, why did I go off for 2 weeks and then come back? Because I
Yeah.
never spoke anything about that to them. And I think everybody can benefit by sharing in their lives what the people are important to 'em.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. If you would be able to give your 35-year-old advice, what advice would it be?
Quit your job.
Hmm.
And it would be really hard. But I talk to people about this, that money um, is a trap. And when I was 35, I was making a lot of money, and I was spending that money, and I was enjoying that money, but I was also crippled by it. I couldn't leave if I wanted to, because I was so engaged in what's my title, what's my role, what's my bonus, what's my salary. How come that guy got a better office than I got? He should never have been the choice to run that region. I can run that region. I can run circles around him. And I noticed that I said him and all of them because there were no women in that time. But the point that I make, and I make it for people who are young, is you will get to a place where you can no longer do what you really want, or what's really is important to you, what your purpose is. When you start to be 35, and when you start to be 40, no matter where you are in the corporate circle, you start to think about purpose. You start to think about, what the hell is all this that's going on? Your parents start losing their health. Your children are growing up and becoming what you think you were 5 years ago. You were 17. No, that wasn't 5 years ago. It's 20 years ago. You know what I mean? And so I would tell myself, don't do that. Go do something that you wake up every morning and you're proud of doing, and you can turn to your daughter, look her in the eye, and say, and I'm doing what's important. I'm doing important work. When I was 35, I could turn to my children and say, like, man, I make a lot of money. That's why we have this big house and we fly here and we do that, all of that. That didn't help them become good men and women. The things I'm doing with my daughter, who is 10, will make her be a very strong contributor in her own way.
What do you think your advice will be to yourself now when you're 85?
That's wow. I hope that what I'm saying when I'm 85, that you know you did it right. That's what I'll tell you what I do. This is an exercise I do. My dad's gone. He passed away a little over 12 years ago. But there are a few days that I don't talk to him. Uh, so he's the guy that's telling me about what it's like to be 85 or 88 or something else. and he reminds me about what's important. I wish he was I wish he was around. He was an amazing man. I just, if for no other reason, just to wake up every day and say, like, Jesus Christ, excuse me, you're an amazing person. I'm so happy to be your son. I'm so proud. But the way he stays alive with me is that I talk to him about what I need to do now so that I don't regret things or look back and say, I should have quit my job, or I should have done this, or I should have done that. He's helping me find that path. And I believe that unlike when I was 35 and not smart enough to understand the nature of life, that I understand it now. And I believe that I don't know whether I'll make a lot of money or no money, but I don't care. What I do care about is that I raise a beautiful daughter and I teach her what to do to have a great life. One day when I pass, I hope that people say, man, he failed a lot, but in the end, he got it all put together. That's what I hope.
Yeah. Paul, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. So hopefully this will become our new ritual that once a year we catch up on the podcast and pontificate about life.